Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm out here in the pasture next to the pond. This is the area that we were going to build our house in, that we're no longer going to do. So we're actually been thinking about what are we going to actually do with this. It's actually one spot on our property that does have the best grass. Part of that is because for the years that we've lived here, we've run the chickens through here pretty consistently. That's part of it. Part of it was just that this is where the best grass was when we got here, so running the chickens through that only reinforced that and built that up. It's actually one of the things we talked about when we chose this spot for the house, is like, man, we're giving up some really good grass. So now that we're not doing that, we're like, okay, what are we going to do? One thing we have started doing is I had the sheep on that side of the pond, and now I've got them right here on this side in the area that I'm speaking about. However, this pasture is kind of in a weird transition phase. What I mean by that is the grass hasn't fully transitioned. So like there's summer grass and then there's cold weather grass. This particular pasture actually has a pretty good establishment of both. But we have not gotten cold enough to really bring in the cold weather grasses, the winter rye, and things like that. But we're not warm enough to keep the summer grasses growing. So I've got a lot of brown patches all the way around. Normally it's actually not like this. This is actually one of the first times I've seen this pasture get like this. Now I do have some green places, but it's real patchy. Because we're in the middle of the transition and neither of the grasses are actually really growing well, even with this 50 by 100 foot paddock that I've been giving them, it doesn't sustain them very long with 12 sheep in there. So I've been talking with Jessica, and we've kind of put our minds together on like, okay, what do we do? And we kind of came up with the idea of making what we call a sacrifice pasture or a sacrifice paddock, sacrifice pen. And essentially what that's going to mean is we're going to set up an area for the sheep to stay and not move from. And they're going to overgraze that small portion of grass while they're there. But we're going to supplement with some hay. I've got a pretty good source of non-chemically sprayed coastal Bermuda hay, so it's good quality. Anything that we actually consume, we try and not feed anything chemical. And so this hay would meet that criteria, especially for the sheep that we're going to process at some point. And so what I'm doing right now is I've got my buddy. Hey buddy, this is my buddy Ben. It's my youngest of all my sons, and he's actually, for the last few weeks, have been coming out and helping me on the weekends move the sheep. He's been learning a lot about that. Like the first time that I had him come out and help me move the sheep to a new spot, it took me like half as much time, but just because I had an extra person like run and go get something or go turn something off, like the Energizer or something like that. So, you know, he's learning and he's gotten pretty good at it. You said you wanted to share something?
No. One reason I like moving the sheep with my dad is because I get to spend time with him. And then the second reason is because for Christmas I really want a four-wheeler. And he lets me drive the four-wheeler. So he'll put more trust into me so I can get one.
I mean, I feel like that's one, makes me feel pretty good that he wants to spend time with me. But two, I think that's pretty good logic as far as like, hey, you know, you want to accomplish this, or you want this thing, here, let me prove to you that I'm trustworthy to get it. Now, that's not saying that he's getting a four-wheeler this Christmas, but I like where you're coming from. Okay, so behind us right here, we've got essentially our sheep moving trailer. This was in a previous video, but let's go a little bit more in depth onto what it's actually on this trailer and why I have it. So the items I'm keeping on this trailer is a T-post driver. I've got my 260 gallon tote of water that I use to fill up the water every day. And then I've got all my fencing right here. All right, so I've got the 100-foot sections on that side, the 50-foot sections on this side right here. I've got some extra T-posts down there. And then I've got a water hose that I keep to hook up to the spigot of the tote to fill their water up. Now, when I got my Premier One fence, which is what all this fence is, it's from Premier One. I'll link it down below. When I got all this fence, I specifically got a model or a style that had 50 and 100-foot sections, because when you're trying to do rotational grazing, having dimensional stuff, if it works for your property, which we have a lot of flat property, so having dimensional stuff actually makes it easier. It does simplify things. So one of my complaints with like previous sets of netting is that it wasn't symmetrical. It was like 164 feet, so like you couldn't divide it up evenly. Also because of where the legs, the stakes that go on the ground, would fall. Like, so you would have like this extra piece and you'd have to like fold it back or do something with it. The reason I like having these dimensional pieces, when you go to set up another paddock, so what we do is that we will set up two 50-foot pieces. Let's say it was going to go that direction on that end, and then one 100-foot piece at the end of those, and then I would reuse this 100-foot piece that's already up as this wall, so it would become part of the next paddock. So that way when I open that up, they run through, and then I close it off, take down these 3 sections, put them back on the trailer. That all being symmetrical just makes it go a lot faster. There's not a lot of guesswork. To get this section set up though is actually going to be a little bit different, because it's actually not in line with what I'm already running. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to set up this new paddock right here at the corner of the old one. I'll use 4 pieces and just set up a whole new paddock, 200 foots, 250s. And then I'll just open up the 2 corners and have them run through the corner into the new one. And then I'll just take down this whole one that they're in now. I'll just put it all back on the trailer. Real quick, before we get started on setting up the new paddock, over the last couple of chore videos where I've been using this fence or some version of the fence for the chickens or for the pigs or whatever, people have asked how I get everything so tight, because like that hasn't been their experience. Well, I do something that's probably a little extra, but keeping the fence tight, in my experience, has kept animals in better, including chickens, and especially the sheep. But my method for that is using 4 T-posts. So at each corner, I drive a T-post, usually about 12 inches back from the fence. I find some kind of rope or something I can tension it with, and I tie the corners back towards the T-post, which then tightens everything up in line and keeps it nice and straight. It may not be necessary. I'm only going off of my experience, and when the net is not tight, especially at the top, birds have been able to fly over it. I've had sheep get out. I've had more pigs get out. Keeping the net as tight as you can, in my experience, has always kept animals where they're supposed to be better. So take it or leave it. It is an extra step, because you've got to, when you go to move everything, you've got to pull T-posts up, re-drive them in with the T-post driver. But that's why we keep one on that trailer, is because this is the style or the method that I'm using for all of our electric fences. And I've applied this to anywhere that I have electric netting. I'm using T-post and tensioning it. Okay, well, we've got our shape set up, and I've got 2 of the T-posts driven. We went and grabbed the Energizer. Ben's got the Energizer here. Actually, you hold the T-rod, the grounding rod, and give me the Energizer. I'm taller than you. Put that on the T-post. Perfection. And actually, let me give the camera to Ben. All right, I'm going to tie this corner before we move over. So when I do the tying of the corners, I usually go through both poles. I usually use a rope or something that's non-conductive, like I had said. I tie one knot that kind of holds the poles together. Then I bring them back towards the T-post and just tie it off. Okay, Energizer's still off. All right, I'll take it. Thanks, bud. We need to go to that side and drive in. We're going to drive in 1 T-post on that corner. I'm talking to you. And then this one we're going to leave open because that's the corner we're going to open up for them to run through to get into this place. Got it?
Okay.
All right. Well, guys, we were not prepared for the time change. I thought we had time, just kind of like in the back of my head. I do this every single time that it switches back and starts getting darker earlier. So it's getting really hard to see. And it actually is a lot darker than the camera is showing. So anyways, Ben's not going to be able to help me finish because I'm going to have to finish this in the morning and he's got school tomorrow. But I appreciate your help. Just don't leave me hanging, bro. So we'll pick this back up in the morning and get it finished. I've got to get the hay ring set up in there with the bale of hay, and then we'll got to let the sheep in, move their house over, their water, but then they'll be set up. So we'll see you guys in the morning. The time change in the fall gets me every single time. I just don't think about the fact that it's going to get dark that early. In my mind, starting at the time that I did, I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. And we definitely ran out of light. It was getting really hard to see with the cameras. So anyways, we're back around to the morning. Got plenty of light now. And we've got about 50% of the way done before that happens. So let's jump back in there. I've got some other stuff I've got to do today with our horses. So I need to get these sheep moved over to their sacrifice area. And I was thinking about it yesterday, in case I didn't clarify, the sacrifice pen that we're calling it is obviously not to sacrifice the animals, but it's called that because you're sacrificing the ground. The grass that they're going to eat, they're going to overgraze it, they're going to concentrate their manure here. So you're calling it a sacrifice spot because you're sacrificing the space, you're not sacrificing the animals. So in case that wasn't clear to everyone, that's what it means. Well, that's going to take care of them for a while. I'm not really sure how long they're going to stay in the sacrifice pen because it really has more to do with how the pasture is growing through those winter grasses. So I'm just going to keep them there until if I have to bring in another bale of hay, I can do that. It's probably going to take them a good minute to eat through that anyways. Depending on how long it takes the pastures to get their winter grasses in nice and thick, that's when I'll start moving them back through rotation. But honestly, there's really no rush because they're going to be perfectly fine where they're at for as long as I need them to be there. I'm going to head out here and say goodbye. I've still got to go back and pick up the fence that they were using, throw it on the trailer. And now that I'm thinking about it, while I'm on this side of the pond with the trailer and the water tote, it's over half empty. I'll go ahead and take it over to one of the spigots by the garden, stick a hose in there and fill it back up before I drop it back off over across the pond. But anyways, I'm going to knock that out and then move on to some horse stuff that we've got going on this afternoon. Thank you guys for supporting this channel and watching my videos. It means the world to me as I've been able to consistently post and then you guys are responding. It's just been very encouraging and very empowering. So thank you, and I will catch you guys on the next one.